Ladies and gentlemen, this is my Gitmo diary. Well, Wednesday, November 4th, it was our first show at the Windjammer, but first, our first sound check. Well, showtime Wednesday night. Now, I'm not proud of this, but let me play for you what I recorded in that moment. Night of the first show at the Windjammer, Wednesday night, attendance was really poor. You initially feel a little resentment about it. You know, you come a long way and these guys have been working on it for months, and you get there and there's, 30 people there, 40 people there, and it's like a moment of like, well, damn, man, we came all this way for this, and then it suddenly dawns on you, it's like there are guys out there in stations all across the world. They're all by themselves. They're sitting there all night alone, not talking to anybody, and the attitude of the band was just so good, it just put me to shame. I mean, their attitude and my attitude very quickly became, hey, if there's one guy out there, then he's worth coming down and doing the show for, and he's worth coming down and doing the best show for, and I'm ashamed of myself, and I won't be making that mistake again, ever, ever. Thursday was a day between shows, and MWR was generous enough to give us the run of the marina. I water skied across Castro's Harbor, the result of a lease signed when the U.S. liberated Cuba in the Spanish-American War, granting the area around Guantanamo Bay to the United States until both parties agreed to terminate the lease. And I couldn't stop flashing back to the scene in Apocalypse Now with the Rolling Stones playing Satisfaction in my head. And God, what a beautiful setting, surrounded by the mountains and the guard towers and the barbed wire off in the distance, ostensibly to keep the Yankees from overrunning the island, but in reality, simply there to keep the Cuban people themselves from swarming a few hundred yards south to freedom, rather than 90 shark-infested miles in the other direction. We got to a secluded beach by the mouth of the bay, and we did a little snorkeling, and that's when it hit me the hardest, and this idea has never gone away since, that just a few miles distant, entire families of hard-working Cubans are starving to death in slow motion while they sit on a $1 trillion paradise resort. I could never stop thinking about that for the rest of the time I was there. Just how beautiful Guantanamo Bay was, and how perfect it would be for both the Cubans and their guests if people could just be allowed to do what they would stand in lines to do, pay big money to come down there and do what I was doing. But no. One old guy with a beard has an ideology, and instead of fighting the corruption he inherited from Batista and the mob, he's thrown 3 generations of babies out with the bathwater. They're starving to death, and they're dying by the thousands, trying to reach freedom because of an idea that brings death and poverty wherever it rears its ugly head. Now, when we got to that little beach, it was about 400 yards from our dive boat, we met a young Navy corpsman who would not only not let us leave without one of his precious Coronas, purchased on an E3 salary no less, but also insisted on swimming what was left of his case of beer, one-armed, across 400 yards of water so that the crew in the boat could have a beer too. Now, when I offered to relieve him on the swim, he declined. He said it was good practice swimming one-armed for the day he might have to rescue someone.
These are my friends, the cool guys.
Guantanamo freaking Bay, America! Well, Friday was our final day there and the day of the big show, and my God, what a venue. The Tiki Bar at Guantanamo Bay. You fall off the back of the stage and you roll down the hill into the water. The sound check was an absolute blast, but the show, wow. Now, some of you may have seen the remarks that I made that night during the Veterans Day segment aired here at PJTV. Steve Crowder wowed him as usual. And then I was stuck with a problem as the MC. How do you bring out a band without a curtain or without wings on the stage?
My favorite GITMO moment happened about 5-6 hours ago. We were over at GITMO Radio, and we were talking to Jamal there. He's one of the DJs, and I said, hey man, what's your favorite part about working in Guantanamo Bay? He says, well, it's great working on the radio because we get to cheer up our troops, but my favorite thing is they get to hear our signal over in Cuba. And I know that this rock and roll is really pissing Fidel off, and there's not a damn thing he can do about it. And I thought, man, that's absolutely the best thing I've heard. So we are here, ladies and gentlemen, to piss off Fidel Castro as much as we possibly can. Let's get going.
You know, well after midnight and after the show was over, our money was just no good there. The generosity of these people who give up their freedom so we can have ours, and who have to stretch their disgracefully small salaries to cover large families, absences, travel, and other stresses. These people who spend their own money buying commercial boots because the ones issued to them are so subpar, or who spend a month's salary buying their own commercial body armor since it's far better than what they're issued. These people would not let me buy my own beer, let alone do what I'd wanted to do, which was buy every single one of them around. They're just that kind of people. And you either get this or you don't. I get it. Steve Crowder gets it. And the guys in Bridge of Sighs get it.
There was this guy named Sergeant Willie, is what we called him. And so we come back, and we were really excited to see Sergeant Willie because he kind of took us in when we were here the first time. And he always wore a cowboy hat. That's how I remember him. And we come back, and you know, our first question when we get off the plane, get off the boat, you know, where's Sergeant Willie? Is he still here? You know, they said, actually, no, man, he was killed in Iraq, you know. And this is when it hit home, it was really personal, you know, and I felt like I'd actually lost a friend, and I did in Iraq, and that completely shifted my whole outlook on, you know, what these guys down here are doing and the way that they put their lives on the line to protect everyone, including myself, so that I can play this guitar, so I can sing, and so I can surf my waves back at home. So, you know, Sergeant Willie, I always like to, you know, from there on out, dedicate my shows to Sergeant Willie and the good times we had, you know. He's still with me, you know, in spirit. I feel him, he's here now, you know, but especially when I play Pink Houses by John Cougar Mellencamp, you know, I always give a little silent shout out to my Sergeant Willie, and I can see his hat in the crowd, actually, I can.
Well, that kind of brings it home, doesn't it? You know, you spend a week with people like Perk and Trent and Ryan and Tom. You spend a week in communist Cuba with a bright young patriotic comic like Steve Crowder, and you see the quality, the discipline, the commitment, the generosity, and the just raw goodness of the men and women at this remarkable piece of America in the middle of an island of failure that thousands have died in rafts as entire families trying to flee. And you'll come away with one feeling and one feeling only, and that's the feeling I have to this very day. I want to go back. I want to go back right now, especially now during the holiday season, when they're away from their families in dangerous places so that we can be home safe with ours. I want to go back, and I want to visit every base and ship and installation that will have me so that I can tell you, the American citizen, that you are getting every penny of your money's worth with this military, but also that you are preserving in the hearts of the people called to serve it everything good and strong and noble and decent about this country that we all love together.